Kia ora tātou, no mai haere mai. Wade Madsen here from Sport Gisborne Tairāwhiti, and you're listening to our podcast, The Sideline Yak. No mai haere mai whānau, ngā mihi o te tau hou. Happy New Year. On today's show, we chat with Ngati Porou East Coast rugby captain and King in the Ring kickboxing champ, Sam Parks.
Whoever I'm fighting, we both don't like pain, but I'm sorry, bro, but I like pain a little bit more than you, so you're in for a rough night here.
Sam is side to the coast, in particular Tolaga Bay, which he calls home. He plays rugby for Uawa Sports Club and represents Ngati Porou East Coast in the Heartland competition. Sam shares a unique record with teammate Verdon Bartlett as the only two players to have won the Meads Cup, Lochore Cup and Bill Osborne Taonga. In 2022, he received the Ian Kirkpatrick Medal for outstanding contribution on behalf of professional players both on and off the field. He also played through the longest first-class losing streak in New Zealand rugby, losing 54 consecutive matches from 2013 to 2021. Kickboxing is another area where Sam has excelled. In 2022, he won the super light heavyweight 80kg category at New Zealand's K1 kickboxing tournament, King in the Ring. We chat with Sam about growing up on the farm in a small community, how sport was something that kept him focused and provided enjoyment. He reflects on how a poor decision returned him home to the path he was meant to be on. We discuss how his brother's influence got him playing rugby for the coast, the ups and downs of his playing career, and also what makes the coast so special. Sam shares insights into his kickboxing career, the transition from team sports into individual sports at a later age, winning the King in the Ring title, and how his last tournament was a real challenge. His passion and commitment to the coast is unwavering, and his story is a great reflection of an athlete who never gives up. As always, please share this far and wide, and if you love what we are doing, feel free to leave us a review. Kia ora. Sam Parks, welcome to the show. No mai haere mai. Thanks for coming along. Really appreciate the time that you've taken out of your time to come in and have a chat. I'm going to do something a little bit different today. So normally we start with an origin story around what the sport looked like for you growing up, but we're going to kick off a little bit different. I've gone out and had a chat to someone that admires you quite a lot, Daryl Crawford, and he's written a little bit about you, and I think that's going to kick off our conversation today. So Daryl says, I taught Sammy as a year 3 student and he was always into everything. I guess growing up on the farm, he was always active and outside. Awesome whānau and 100% supported by his parents, Murray and Annabelle. He's the youngest of 3, Caroline is the oldest, Ben and then him. Can we talk about what life was like growing up in Uawa?
Yeah, for sure. First of all, thank you for having me. Pretty nervous to be doing it, but thank you for the opportunity first up. Growing up in Tolaga was amazing. It was a massive blessing. Although we were brought up on a farm, so we never really were in the actual township, or you couldn't just go down to the shop or anything whenever you wanted. So my association with Tolaga at the start was always just school, play centre originally, school, and then obviously the farm kind of employs a few people, so you get to know kids around the area that way in particular. So that was sort of my first sort of introduction to Tolaga, is that you're on the farm and you're sort of there all the time, so you don't necessarily get to go into into the town very often. But once we started going to school and that, you sort of started integrating with the outside world coming from farming life. So it's pretty much just hanging out with your brothers and sisters and neighbours and those sort of people until you can sort of start going to school and start broadening your horizons that way, I guess. Yeah.
So what was school like? Tolaga Bay area school?
Yep. That's it.
What was that like for you?
Yeah, it was cool. When that's all you know, you kind of get influenced in those rural communities. It's predominantly Māori based, so you got to do it their way kind of thing, which is beautiful. It's lovely. It's good to grow up in a quite a broad spectrum of people and get to know different cultures and that sort of thing, and then that's what influences you. You don't get stuck in, I don't know, sort of, not that I'm downplaying city life or anything, but you can get sort of stuck in that mould where the rural communities, you kind of, the people are more colourful sort of people and more interesting sort of characters, and that's certainly influenced me 100% in my upbringing.
Nice, yeah. I get it. Like I grew up out at Ormond.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. No, I get that. I understand where you're coming from in terms of that it's almost like that sense of community as well.
Yeah,
like you
for
have
sure.
Just with farming life and everything like that. It's cool. When we head into that, like now, like looking at sport, what was it like growing up for you?
Well, like growing up on the farm, you don't get to choose that many sports because you can't make all the trainings, so it's pretty much just cricket and rugby for us. That was mainly our things, you only get to go to one training a week kind of thing because the bus wouldn't be able to like bring you back home if you go to too many, and then you go to town Saturday morning and play the sport, and then you head straight back up. I'll probably go town and then to Nana and Granddad's for the after match feed, and you go collect your $1 coin for how many tries you scored or whatever, and then back up to the farm and never seen again. So for me, growing up, sport was just rugby and cricket because you couldn't really do a heck of a lot other than that, so sort of jumping ahead a bit, but sort of never really knew of individual sports as a kid, certainly never an option, not because we were forced not to do them, it's just the way it was. I only really got into individual sports when I was about 21, 22 sort of thing, realising, hell, I've left home and I can actually do whatever I want. So yeah, that was quite interesting of a change to go from just a constant diet of team sports to figuring out there is these individual sports that you can sort of have a go at, but
nice. We'll come back to that one, like in regards to the individual sports. Was it tough having that one training and then turning up to the game and then just having that, or was there was it enough? Or
it was certainly enough. It was certainly enough. Yeah, the level is not, it's not All Blacks sort of stuff. So no, it was fine. It was completely fine. Just having those sort of little interactions with the team and then meeting up with them on Saturday and that. Yeah, because most of the team, back then all sort of live in Tolaga and that. But a few of us farming kids had to sort of, do it that way.
Yeah. And then it was back on the farm and working, or?
Wow. Yeah. Slave labour. Yeah. Yeah.
Brilliant. Cool. So if we sort of fast forward into boys high, you went to boys high. So what did rugby look like that for you?
Well, yeah. So I actually went to Lindisfarne College for 3rd and 4th form. So year 9 and 10. I'm going to go on another tangent here.
No, that's all good.
I actually got kicked out of Lindisfarne for smoking marijuana. Grow up in Tolaga Bay, and then get sent away to a private or integrated boarding school and then try weed for the first time. It doesn't really make sense. But my point of the story is that going to Lindisfarne, the whole ideology around Lindisfarne in terms of like the students is that you get sent, like you get promoted to go to university and you're going down that sort of path. I was never inclined to do any of that. Yeah, so but if I had stayed at Lindisfarne, I would have probably gone to university and I would have gone down a different path, and I wouldn't have, I don't think I would have done or achieved anything that I have now. Yeah. So interesting, smoking that weed and getting kicked out brought me back to Gisborne, and it actually put me on the path that I was meant to be on. So that weird, bad moment in my life of doing that bad decision actually corrected my life in terms of putting me on the track that I was supposed to be on. Yeah, so it was quite weird because I don't smoke weed now. I don't smoke cigarettes. I don't vape. I don't do any of that. I'm quite a healthy sort of a bloke. But that one poor decision was quite weird how it actually later on became my biggest blessing. Yeah. I would have hated if I went to university and got a loan and ended up not being back in Gisborne Boys High, being close to Uawa, who I'm completely side to, and then leaving Gizzy Boys and going to play for Uawa and all of that. So that was pretty bad at the time, mum and dad were disappointed and whatnot, but now that's been the biggest blessing in my entire life, to be honest.
Yeah. That's an awesome story to share. Thank you for reflecting on that. That's brilliant. If we just dig a little bit deeper, going into Lindisfarne, is it going from a small and something that has popped up a couple of times when we've talked to others around this, is going from a small town into a sort of a bigger environment, bigger city type thing. Is that sort of like the influences around you is quite large?
It's quite large, and it's probably too much of a change, to be honest. Well, it was for me. It was for me. Like, my brother went to Lindisfarne, he went all the way through and went to university, and now he's a farmer. So, not that it was a waste of time him going to university or anything, but that's my point, was that, you know, I would have ended up going to university too, and probably ended up coming back and just being a builder, but missed out on that connection to the local community, which is something that I like. And then my sister went to Woodford, so, you know, farming kids sort of get sent away.
So going from Lindisfarne and then you're coming back home, so obviously heading to Boys High?
Yep. So
were you boarding at Boys High, or were you?
No, I was living with my nan and granddad, my father's mum and dad. Yeah. So I lived with them for 5th form, and then in 6th form I went and lived with my cousin, Holly Layton. Yeah. So
still rugby and cricket at Boys High?
Yep. So only rugby and cricket at Boys High, but I was not very good at school. I was only in the first 15 fully at 7th form. So I played 2 games in 5th form, and then probably another 2 games in 6th form, and then only actually made the team fully in 7th form. Yeah. So I mean, they had other halfbacks there, and even in my 7th form, I was only the reserve halfback. Yeah, I only got to start a couple of games if it was. I was sort of just the meathead that was just there for defence, I guess, and I got to start if the conditions were rainy and muddy, then I got to start. Otherwise, no.
What was rugby to you at that time? Was it just something to keep you involved in sport, or was it something that you really wanted? Was it a passion starting to grow into a passion, or was it
nothing? To me, I only figured out rugby wasn't a compulsory sport last year. I grew up with my, you know, just getting told, you know, it's cricket and rugby, and that's what you do. You know, you're a Kiwi kid, so you just play cricket and rugby. Yeah. So that was all sport was for me. Yeah, especially with it's just those 2 sports. It wasn't like I was out doing athletics or anything like that. No, like rugby was just something that I enjoyed, and it was never something that I was getting picked for or getting told, oh, you know, you can go far or anything. It was just something that I done.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
So you did enjoy it, or was it?
Yep, super. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed it. But I always knew rugby was just something to do on a Saturday. It was never the be all end all for me, and it probably still isn't. Yeah. And sport itself probably never has been either, because at a young age I was never earmarked to go far in anything. So there was never like that drive to be like, oh, you know, I'm gonna go and be a sportsman or anything. Sport was just something that I like to do in myself to keep my brain sedated, really, so I don't, you know, my mind sort of drifts off, and not into bad things or anything, but my mind sort of drifts off, and I need something to keep me just focused on what I'm doing at the moment. Yeah.
Cool. Another good reflection. That's great. So then you sort of moved, obviously after Boys High, moved back home, Uawa.
Yep.
And then playing. So that's something that DC, Daryl, mentioned in here as well. You are staunch to Uawa. They're all right back through the JRB to now. He's always a player who just got stuck in. After his stint with Gisborne Boys High School, he made his debut for us. He just grew as a player and a leader. Are you able to elaborate a little bit on that? Yeah,
so like I say, rugby wasn't really massive for me at school, so I didn't really think about what my rugby career after school was going to look like. You know, it didn't really worry me, but the catalyst for me going back to Uawa was because my brother went back there and played, and then he went back there, and me and my brother, we have normal brother relationship. You know, you fight when you're kids, and you know, and all of that. But he's certainly one of my biggest inspirations in my entire life. I've never really told him that, but everything he does, I try and copy. You know, just that typical younger brother things. You know, so he's actually had a big influence on my life. So he went. I was still at Gizzy Boys 7th form, and he went back and played for Uawa in my 7th form. So I was going up there and watching him and sort of enjoying seeing him, what he was doing. And then he made the coast that year in 2011, which they made the Meads Cup final and lost to Wanganui. So to be honest, the main catalyst here to go back to Uawa was my brother, just seeing him play for them. And I was like, yeah, that's me. I want to go and emulate that and go back to where I'm from and play for my home. The biggest influence to go back there was my brother.
Nice. Obviously, DC's mentioned a few shields and stuff like that. So at the time that you've played there with Uawa, like the Rangiora Keelan Shield?
Yep.
And then also Barry Cup.
Yeah.
Like,
so my first few years at Uawa, we made the semis every year, didn't win. So 2016, I think, something around there, we made the final against Hikurangi and lost. And then we might have made another final and lost that too. And then it wasn't until 2018 where we won our first one. Didn't really have too much success in terms of winning the whole competition for our first for my first few years there. But it wasn't until 2018 when we won our first championship, and then we went back to back. 2019, 2020, obviously COVID hit, and then 2021 we won it again. So we kind of went sort of 3 years in a row. Yeah, in a roundabout way.
What part did you play in terms of leadership within that?
Yeah, so I think my leadership at the start was just being the fittest person in the team, sort of not speaking or anything, just, my actions kind of was probably the thing that might have motivated a few players. I'm not too sure who, but if it did, it would have been that. It would have just been being fit and turning up to every training and just being so super committed, which is just second nature for me, really. Like that's, the things that I had no real talent, it's that those other bits and pieces that I sort of found helped me the most. Yeah.
So where did that commitment come from?
Just from my father, my mother, older siblings, and just getting brought up on a farm, to be honest. Even though I'm like fit, motivated, and committed to everything, I like sitting on the couch and I like watching TV as well, So I'm not go 24/7. There are times where I do like to sit down and have a rest. Yeah, so that's kind of not in my nature to be go all the time. So it was those farming sort of influences where you sort of learn, like if there's sheep in the pen and you're drafting them or something or drenching them, you can't just leave, you got to sort of just wait and just blow the whole thing out, and then you can have your rest.
Yeah.
So it was probably that main influence, just that farming upbringing where, you're dealing with animals that they don't have smoko, they don't go to time frames, so you just got to kind of like wait till the job's done and then you can sort of have your rest. So maybe it was that. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. No, that's good.
Yeah.
Talk to me about when you debuted for Ngati Porou East Coast.
Yeah.
What was the feelings?
Yeah.
When sort of like anything around that, like when was it?
So that was first year out of school. Yeah, first year out of school playing for Uawa. Had a good season, and then Ngati Simpkins and Ruatapuki picked me. Yeah, so that was massive because that was kind of my dream. Once I'd seen, like the dream to play for the Coast was from 7th form when I seen my brother play for them, and then I seen that they made the final for the Meads Cup. That was the turning point that I was like, that's my goal. That's the team I'm going to play for. And like I said before, I never really had any aspirations with rugby, but that's my one and only aspiration that I've ever had with rugby. Like I've never wanted to be an All Black. It drives me up the wall when you hear people say it's every Kiwi kid's dream to play for the All Blacks, because it wasn't mine. And I was like, mate, you guys are putting words in my mouth. You're saying every Kiwi kid, and I'm like, it's not me. And I love rugby, So never had that dream. The only dream I had was just to play for the Coast. Once Ngati Simpkins and Ruatapuki picked me, it was kind of like, my first sort of goal that I've ever kind of set was achieved in sport. So it actually meant a lot. And plus my brother got picked in the same team, so we got to play together, which we were playing together for Uawa, which was cool, but playing that representative footy with your older sibling is another level. So got to debut against Poverty Bay in the Queen's Birthday weekend game in 2012, and we ended up losing that game, but had a good season that year while we ended up winning the whole competition. And so my debut season for the Coast was the year that we won the Meads Cup. So a bit of a whirlwind of an experience, getting picked, especially when the Coast have always been a bit of an up and down union, and my debut year is winning the entire thing, and then we sort of crashed and burned for 8 years after that. So I was got to experience all ranges of emotions in my first little period with the Coast. I
bet that would have been awesome.
That was cool. Awesome. It was cool. Now the that we played, like 2012 was just crazy. We sort of, as a team, we'd turn up to towns, walk tour, just like a big Māori team that turns up, wins games, partied hard, and just home again, you know, like it was the dream, especially an 18-year-old kid, just out of school experiencing all these big gnarly rugby fellas and big coast fellas that, you know, that's who I learnt the tricks of the trade off, you know, just proper fellas from Ruatoria, Taonga, you know, that's who influenced me. And I was just a little white 18-year-old kid in the team, just happy to be there, trying to do his best. And but everyone made me feel welcome, and certainly best friends for life, you know. I got to play on the fringes with, you know, some legends, like Morgan Whittaper Jr. And then now I get to be, you know, the captain of the team and play with all these young guys. So it's cool.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Is that what makes it so special? The way you talk about the coast, it's amazing. Like you can see how proud you are of being involved with the coast.
100%. I'm like one-eyed coast man through and through. Like, and like I said before, I'm extremely sired to Tolaga Bay. That's my home. It's where I live. It's where my roots are. So, and anywhere I go, I try and take Uawa with me, or if I've got a platform, like if I'm on TV or anything, like I'll make a shout out to Uawa or Tolaga Bay and the coast as well. The love for Uawa is the same for the coast. So, yeah, wherever I go, if I've got a platform to spread the word, then I certainly do. I try and sneak it in all the time, you know, in King in the Ring or anywhere, you know. So yeah.
So it's that sense of belonging, isn't it? Like that's something that's grounded you.
For sure. It's, as humans, I certainly like belonging to something, you know. I'm probably not as passionate about New Zealand as I am about being, like, I'd say, if I could say where I'm from, I would say East Coast. I wouldn't say New Zealand, you know. Yeah. I've got that sort of affiliation with the coast that, that's the place that I'm from.
Nice, I love it. That's cool. Yeah. So just talking around some of the highlights and I suppose challenges as well, like in the sky blue jersey, like you've one of two players that have won the Meads Cup, Lochore Cup and the Bill Osborne Taonga. You got the Ian Kirkpatrick medal in 2022, but then, like as you've alluded to, you've also been one of the longest first-class losing streak in New Zealand rugby.
As well. No, I know. So,
as you say, it's been up and down. Can you talk to a little bit about that? Like,
I mean, it's hard to sort of put it into words. Like they're both at opposite ends of the spectrum, aren't they? But in terms of going through all that losing streak, no one ever really got like super down or got like disheartened with the team or the union or anything like that. It was quite strange or surreal to, you know, every time we'd lose, the next week we were like, man, I think next week we're going to win, eh? Like we had that kind of mentality. Like we always thought like next week was going to be better. And that was probably one of the things why the spirit never broke in any of our teams or any of the coaching staff or any of the fish heads who are running the union, you know, the CEO or anything. Every week we're quite naive to think back now, but, you know, we'd lose and then the following week we're like, oh, you know, training on Tuesday and the boys start, you know, geeing each other up and we're like, oh, maybe it's this weekend we're going to win, you know. So the spirit never broke. And then, so, you know, when Jose took over the reins and took over the team, it was just about putting a few game plans in place that are correct. It wasn't about sort of telling the boys, you know, you're good or anything. Like everyone still knew that the spirit was there. We just needed a good, correct game plan put in place. And it wasn't until Jose came along and done that we started coming good again. Yeah, we're the core playing group, like me, Verdon Bartlett, and a few other of the like Hone Hairoa and that. You know, we were there during the losing streak, and like the same core leaders of the group were the ones that were in the good period with Jose, and they were in the bad period as well. But so it wasn't like we had to change the playing group and or anything like that. You know, the spirit was still there. It's just about the correct person coming in and tapping into pulling the correct strings with coast players, because we're a unique bunch of people. You know, you can't really turn up and run it as a cookie cutter approach. You know, you got to do it very individual and unique and find the correct way, which Ngati Simpkins and Ruatapoki done brilliantly, is that they had a unique way of running the show, and it thrived with the playing group back then. Yeah.
I'm curious, like when you talk a little bit about the spirit of the team, and that's obviously been there the whole time.
Yep.
Like, are you able to dig a little bit deeper around that in terms of like what is that? Unpack that a bit more.
Yeah, I mean it's a funny one, because you sort of can't really it's one of those like cultures things in the team where you can't really kind of describe. It's better to be shown.
Yes.
But it's mainly around like the waiata and the haka and the kind of connection that you have with the other players. Like there's a lot of cousins and that in the team, or people who have, their genealogical line is all, from the same place. So there's that connection. And then there's never, like I've been in teams where you kind of get a few groups or a few cliques, and it's just not the case in the coast. Yeah, like there's just nothing. Everyone, it's not even on purpose either. Like everyone just hangs out with everyone. And I mean, it comes down to sleeping in marae all the time, doing wānanga all the time, singing. Everyone's got to sing, and no one really likes singing, but you got to do it. You're kind of breaking down those embarrassing barriers that some people might have. Like in wānanga, we got to go and get up and sing the coast song with just 4 of you. It gets pretty daunting, that you got to kind of open up and share and be super vulnerable in front of the entire team. So it's probably that sort of thing that everyone. And it's a Māori team, and Māoris know how to dig into anyone's insecurities and give you a bit of shit about it. So there's a lot of ribbing going on with the boys. If you're, it's not bullying, but it's certainly, you got to have thick skin if you want to play for the coast, and it's a great thing. It keeps you humble. It makes you, you don't get too big for your boots or anything, because the boys will give you a bit of shit in the changing room, or they'll call you out in a team meeting. Yeah. So there's a lot of that. Yeah, like I say, it's hard to describe the spirit, but it's just the fact that everyone's so damn close, and there's so many walks of life up there, but it all works. Like Verdon Bartlett, who's just a hardcore Māori, sort of long dreadlocks, lives up Cape Runaway, and that's one of my best friends, So I'm just a white farming fella from Tolaga Bay, and he's one of my best mates. So it kind of goes to show how everyone ticks in the group. Yeah, hopefully that's
honestly like, and I mean it sincerely. Like that's a beautiful insight into what the coast team's about.
Yeah.
It's amazing to hear, and like it's great. Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to flip it now. So now we're going to move into, obviously, the kickboxing, the fighting side of things. You alluded to it earlier around that individual sport. Was this sort of around the time when you were made aware of, like got into fighting, was like when that realisation that there are individual sports?
For sure. So my first introduction to kickboxing was, I was actually playing in the Tolaga Bay competition for Ngati at the time. I just wanted some more pre-season training, and I was like, I've heard this bloody kickboxing, any sort of fight training is quite good. So I just done it off my own bat. I just found out where ROA was training, and I just popped down there. Must have been like February or January, of this particular year. Yeah, just went in there, just didn't know anyone. I went down by myself. I was pretty nervous. I just walked in. I was actually, the first training I went to, I was late. I was about 15 minutes late. I walked in, and everyone was like hitting pads, and it was quite intimidating, to be honest. And I walked in a little bit sheepish, realised I was 15 minutes late, and then Takamaki must have seen me, and he come over and sort of introduced himself and said, what are you up to? And I was like, I'm keen to train. And he goes, well, come on then, get in here. I was like, no, this is a little bit too much. The fact that I turned up late and we got all these big kickboxers in there hitting pads, I was like, no, I don't want, I'll come back tomorrow. Yeah. And so I left and then came back. It might have been like 2 days later or whatever, whenever the class was on, turn up early and got into it that way. Yeah, so my first introduction to it was just went along for a bit of pre-season training, but if anyone knows the Mackies, once you sort of turn up, they book you a fight pretty quick. So yeah, ended up pretty much got booked for a novice fight, padded fight, I don't know when it was, how many, weeks or months later it was, but yeah, got booked for that, and then that's when the bug sort of came, realising, I want to just keep doing it. Again, it wasn't about realising, I'm going to make all these goals right here and then, there and then, being like, I'm going to do this and that or conquer the world or anything. I just getting dragged along, getting told by Melissa and Tucker Mackie that, you got a fight coming up. So you just train for it, and then it just slowly progressed from that. Yeah.
Could they see something in you, or is it they just catch everyone that comes through?
I don't really want to answer for them because I reckon probably is yes. Yeah. I don't know. They might have thought, no, this fella's useless, but I think now they certainly see what I'm about, and the entire Mackie family, I've got nothing but love and admiration for them. They do a lot for me, They do a lot. Yeah, so I don't know if they seen anything right away. I'm not sure. You'd have to ask them that, but it wasn't until my first non-padded fight where I went in and knocked the guy out in, 12 seconds or something, and got the fastest knockout on the Knees of Fury card in Australasia, because this particular promoter has fight nights all over New Zealand and Australia, and I had the record for the fastest knockout on my first proper fight.
Wow.
Yeah, so I think from then we all kind of realised maybe we need to give this a go. Yeah. So then now we're here. Yeah.
No, that's cool. We'll jump straight into the King of the Ring.
Yep.
That was a new 2022. Had you done King of the Ring previously?
Yeah. Well, King of the Ring is obviously the top 8 fighters in New Zealand, but then they have a reserve fight. So they have the top 8, and then they have a reserve fight on the same night. And then if any of the fighters in the 8 win their fight but get injured and can't continue, then the winner of the reserve fight will take their place.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. So that was my introduction. So 2020, year of COVID, started the year. We went as a club to Australia and fought 2 Australians in February, and then COVID hit, and then it wasn't until June of that same year we had the bubble. Jason Suddy just decided to make the most of it and put on a King of the Ring event at 75 kg, and Melissa got me in as the reserve fighter of that. Yeah, that was the first time going down to 75 kilo. Won that fight by knockout in the 3rd round, and then no one else got injured, so I didn't get to fight, but it was the fact that we'd done the reserve fight and just showed that we didn't mind, doing that and proving to Jason Suddy that we're keen to do whatever we can to help the show, and if we can be in the 8 next time, then that'd be cool. So yeah, that was my first introduction to King of the Ring, and then obviously got put in the main 8 the next time in 2022. Yeah.
And so that was a new Division 8, so this is sort of heavyweight. So was that 80 or
80 kilos. So it was the first time he'd put on that weight range, and it suited me. That's my optimum weight, or anywhere around there, 78 to sort of 80 is pretty cool for me. Yeah, so getting put in that was awesome. But like I say, sport's never been I've never thought I was ever any good at sport. I've probably got a fraud sort of mentality. So I've certainly trained hard and done everything that I could, no stone unturned, to go up there and perform. But in my mind, I thought, no way am I going to win this. I'm going up against fellas who've been fighting since they're 6 and 7 years old and live and breathe it. It's their main sport. I just come off a bender. We just won the Lochore Cup for the coast, and I just crawled off the couch and went into a fight camp from that. So I was thinking, no way I'm gonna win it, but I'm gonna certainly turn up fit, ready to go and do my best. And it just so happens that my best won it. Yeah.
Because that's a massive, when you look at it, and I watched that one as well, that was incredible to see. You're going through, you've got to, if you win it, you've basically got to fight 3 people, Is that correct?
Yep.
So how do you prepare for something like that?
I've actually won an 8-man, I won an 8-man tournament sort of a year earlier. Yeah. So that was a paid gig over in Waihi. Yeah. So Melissa again got me into that tournament. It was an 80 kilo one too. So I won that. Unanimous decision first fight, knocked out City Kickboxing's one of City Kickboxing's pro fighters in the second fight, and then beat the favourite in the final, who was a southpaw. I'd fought one southpaw before. Never really. They're always quite tricky, but for some reason I had it. Everything was locked that night, and I was good. So I had done one before, King of the Ring, so that did give me a lot of confidence to know how to deal with what was coming. Yeah. But to be honest, the format actually suits me. It suits my mentality. It suits the way I operate. I like that long distance endurance. the element that some people won't like, I like. For instance, in seven, like the reason why I like sevens because it was in summer and it was hot, and other people didn't really adapt to it that well, and that was the reason why I like sevens. So the reason why I like King of the Ring was because it has that long distance endurance mindset of like, it's about not necessarily the most slickest technical fella needs to win, because you got to be able to do that and handle the adrenaline dump and handle pain of 3 fights and handle all of that, that's my bread and butter. That's the bit that I like. And we've always said this as a team, like me and Tucker and I, is that we all don't like pain, but I like pain just a little bit more than everyone else. So that was something that's like one of our little mottos that Tucker and I have only really spoken about that once, but I've taken that with me all the time, is that, whoever I'm fighting, we both don't like pain, but I'm sorry, bro, but I like pain a little bit more than you. So you're in for a rough night here,
That's cool. And from what we've been talking about this episode, is like, I can tell that you're like into the fitness side of things, and you've got that in lockdown. So I suppose when you're talking around like you like that pain a little bit more, there's obviously that mental side of things. Yeah. So how do you sort of train your mind to be able to deal with that?
Yeah, you probably don't. Yeah, in terms of, like you say before, it probably comes from that upbringing of that farming sort of upbringing. You can't really go and train your mind. You got to either got it or you don't, and that's probably one of the reasons why I've got a little bit of success. But it's all about sort of finding yourself fighting. Like, it's so lonely that you learn things on the night. You'll be surprised how much, once you're put in that situation, you just sort of realize, okay, we're here now. We're just going to have to grit our teeth, and then that's when you find yourself. Yeah, so to train yourself mentally, you could probably go and do some big trainings, and once you're tired, you do a little bit more, and then that does help. That gives you a little bit of drive to sort of know if you're hitting the wall, you can just carry on through. But in terms of if you're especially in fighting, if you're losing a round, it's actually hard to come back from, because you're like, man, another person's dominating me in the most sort of manliest way. How am I going to get back out of this now? And it's just about probably forgetting about it really, and just gritting your teeth and just starting again and trying your best in the next round. Otherwise, if you start dwelling on things, you can get hung up. And I've probably been guilty of dwelling on things in fights, and so it's probably about just sort of washing your hands with that particular round and just being like, okay, cool, that happened, just gonna have to start again and get back out there. So in terms of training your mind for it, not sure really how to answer it, but it's probably just about how you've grown up in terms of getting through those dark moments.
And I wonder, because when you talked before around commitment, I wonder if that's something that obviously, like growing up on the farm, being committed to like the roles that you had to do, whether that's had a real big influence in terms of how your mind sort of sees things as well. It's like, I'm committed to this, I'm 100%, this is what I'm like.
For sure, in a way, No, you're right.
Nice, love it. So obviously last year you were back there again. Can you talk to us about that? Because I know there's quite a bit around, like you had to drop weight, it was quite tough, you were last minute sort of coming in. It'd be cool to hear from you, like, how does that affect you as well, like in terms of physically and mentally?
No, that was this last fight camp for King of the Ring was a roller coaster of emotions, like losing, because I played rugby at about 88, 90 kg. We just lost the semi to South Canterbury, and then they started putting the word out that they needed another fighter, and we put our hand up and got picked and whatever. And then so I was sitting at 90 and then had to get down to 75 kg. So 15 kilos in 4 weeks was pretty tough. But I got my nutritionist, AJ Fobister, who's an absolute star. She's real clued on. She's done my nutrition all the way through my fighting. So I've got her, who's bloody good. And then I have Jamie Kiriana, Alana Kiriana's husband, who was my strength and conditioning coach. So I've got those two there. I wouldn't have been able to do it without them, to be honest. The fight camp has to start off real hard and fast with Jamie creating all my plans and that, and then obviously you've got ROA training who they understand the battles that I have to go through to get down to that weight. They're amazing, like Tucker and Mel in particular honestly believes in me like no one else in this whole world. She believes in me more than me. Like, she sees more potential in me than I see in myself. So she's amazing. Tucker as well. He knows that I'm not a perfectionist, but I do like things to go correctly. And, he kind of, when things aren't going correctly, you might have a bad training because you've got lack of energy. He kind of tries to pick my spirits up or joke around or just try and help me that way. Try to, for lack of a better term, baby me through the whole process, because you've got to do the most hardest trainings in the world kind of thing, and then you're only allowed chicken and broccoli. You're not really fueling up. Yeah. So there's a lot of mood, a lot of some bad moods that I get in. But my whole fight team, my whole gym, they just know me like the back of their hand. I'm quite transparent. Yeah. So everyone really rallies around me. My training partners, with my sparring partners, they all sort of get around me and pat me on the back and really get me up. So the whole culture at ROA it's bloody good, eh? The old family thing gets thrown around like quite a cliche, but I think when you've got random strangers that do more for you than some of your cousins, that's a bigger connection than just family, because it's a complete stranger that's got no affiliation to you, and they're the ones backing you up and getting you through tough times. So yeah, I don't really like to call it a family. It's something a little bit deeper. Yeah, which is, it's crazy. And then we've got another trainer, Dan Spears, who's this English guy, married a Gizzy girl, and he joined our gym, and he's one of our coaches, and he's like my main pad holder, and he knows how to pull my strings real well, and he knows when to back off too. So he knows when to push me, knows when when I'm about to give up because the training's gone too much and I haven't eaten, and he just smashes me even more. And then he can tell the difference. He can differentiate between me just pushing through the pain barrier or me being like, oh no, I need to really stop here and give him a rest. And so everyone has their place in my fight team, and everyone knows their role. Everyone does their job, and that's why we've had some massive success. Especially winning it. That's the pinnacle of New Zealand fighting. Everyone that knows fighting in New Zealand knows that once you win King in the Ring, that's the top prize. Yeah.
So with that one from last year, and obviously you got through your first fight, I think, eh?
Yeah.
And then the second one you got beaten by the eventual winner.
Yeah. So the guy, he got me a good liver shot and I went down, and that was it. Yeah. But he went on to win, and he was actually a good bugger. Yeah, losing all that weight in that small period of time, I didn't think anything of it in my mind because I couldn't really afford to. But what happens in my mind and what physically happens is a completely different thing. So it probably did physically take a toll, and I just didn't want to accept it. Yeah. So I mean, I was pretty drained. I had to sauna out probably about 6 or 7 kilo in a couple of settings, and then didn't eat since Thursday and weigh in Friday night. So 2 days of no food, sweating out, just trying to run, hopping in and out of saunas. Yeah, so wow. It's pretty tough. But it was the fact that they're not having the 80 kilo King in the Ring until 2026.
Okay.
So we just decided I wanted that challenge, and I wanted to go on King in the Ring again. I wanted that stimulation, I wanted to have that thrill again. So I had to go down to 75. So you got to do what you have to do. I'm not complaining about what we had to do. I'm just saying it happened, and
Would you do it again? Obviously you do the fights again, but would you drop that weight?
I know what you're saying. Yeah, I'm not sure. I certainly at the time I was like, I'm never doing this again. I'm like never going to hop in the sauna this long. But if I have like an 8-week camp or something like that, and I can progressively get down, then maybe.
Yeah.
But I do feel fitter and healthier at 80 kilo. It was quite good to see what it was like again to go down to 75 and go down to those lower weights, because it's not really my body type. That like I'm quite a muscle bound sort of aggressive fighter, where the lower weights are more speed and technique and that kind of thing. Right, which isn't really my fight style. My fight style is aggression, power, those sort of things. And so the 80 kilo category kind of suits me. Yeah. Where all the body types that were down at 75 kilo, they're all acclimatized to it a lot longer perhaps, and my body was down there screaming out for food and oxygen and just wanting to, I'm starving down there, so Yeah, probably not. If I can sort of stick around the 80 kilo or 78, then that's probably a bit better for me. Yeah.
No, fair enough, eh? It would be tough. It would be very tough. I can only imagine what you're going through. Like, it's just incredible. Moving sort of around a little bit, like you talked a little bit around your support network, especially with ROA or with your fighting. What does your support network overall look like in terms of rugby? And
support network during rugby is certainly not as defined as the fighting. Like in rugby, it's a team sport. You just sort of do your job and you do your role, but then you've got everyone else around you to do theirs, and your support network is the team. Yeah, so it's like if you have your the support network's the team, and then you've got your entourage. It's like could get a little bit too much for me. So I'd pretty much just have the team is my support network and the coast, and then obviously mum and dad are always at every game. Brother and sister turn up to the ones that they can make when they're not farming, because they're both farming. Yeah, so support network during rugby is sort of takes care of itself because you're in a team environment. The one in fighting is when it becomes crucial. It honestly becomes crucial because it's such a lonely sport. There's a lot of pain involved. There's a lot of risk. Like there's a lot of actual health detriments that could happen. So do need to have that support network. And in fighting, I've got a massive one with the entire Mackie family. They're like the main support network outside of my family with fighting. They all have their own little influences on me, whether or not it's hopping in the sauna when I'm cutting weight. When I was up in Auckland, just getting ready for like King of the Ring, and in the sauna, one of the sisters, EP7, would jump in the sauna with me and baby me through that, trying to sweat off 5 kilos. So everyone's got their role. Yeah.
I did have the question around who are your influences and who's sort of been there supporting you, and looking at the Mackie family, what qualities, especially within the fighting world, what qualities do they have that make them so special in terms of helping you out and stuff like that?
If anyone knows the Mackies, they know that they're aggressive, they're straight to the point, no beating around the bush, and it's that kind of mentality that I take from them, because I'm not as straight up as what they are, they're a certain type of straight up, and it's beautiful, so it's having them around. They do heaps of things for me. If I'm feeling down or lack of energy, then they'll go and get something for me, or they'll bring me food. Well, honestly, when I'm around them, I feel like a thoroughbred racehorse. I can't really think of a good word, but when I'm getting ready, we're about to go out for a fight, I get massaged. I just feel like I'm just like a $1 million horse, just getting prepped, ready to go out there to perform. So on one hand, they've got all that aggression, straight upness, but then they've got a lot of loving and heart as well. So you get all of that, and those are the kind of warm feelings you want going into the ring. You don't want to be going in there with someone who's just sort of sending you out there for their benefit or anything like that. So because a fighter-coach relationship, it's something like that I've never really experienced before, and it's kind of like a pure sort of relationship. There's a lot of trust. There's a lot of trust in your team for prepping you for the fight night, and then there's a lot of trust in they're trusting in you to represent ROA, their pride and joy. Well, they're expecting you to win, and I'm expecting myself to win, because ROA is their child. It is the Mackie family, ROA. So for me, I've got to go out there and represent ROA the best I can, and do my best and show the world who we are.
Love it. Yeah, no, that's a great reflection, because when we look at coaching, even the role as a coach, they've got to know their athlete, know their player, and obviously they've taken that time to learn
100%.
About you and what can break you, what can make you better and stuff like that. And I think that was cool, when you talk around your other trainer, the pad trainer,
Dan Spears,
Dan Spears, around, he knows when you can push you, when you can't push you and stuff,
and
like
knows
that.
the difference between no, it's cool. I have, they're not mood swings, but everyone jokes about it that they're mood swings when I'm dieting, and the Mackies are the people that let me have those mood swings, and they let me, just vent, and they give me that space and freedom to do it where other people wouldn't. I get away with murder during fight camp with the way I am, and they treat me so bloody well during fight camps and then it gives me all that confidence to go out there and perform, where some people, like including like my parents and that, when I'm dieting around them, like they see all the mood swings as well, and then they're like, they sort of don't really understand it as well. Yeah. Like my mum thinks dieting is going from the blue milk to the light blue milk, and that's it. She doesn't see the fact that it's training hard and then not putting anything back in, and then just shredding down. It's that losing weight and then cutting weight. It's almost like you're kind of dying in a way. You're just depleting your body of everything in a stupid way. It's one of the more toxic things that's in fighting, but it's been there since day one. If you don't do it, everyone else is doing it. So it's a bit of it's just a shame that it's in fighting, but it's been there since beginning of time. I think that everyone's trying to find that advantage, and
So are there any other coaches? So obviously you've got the Mackies, and are there any other coaches that have impacted you throughout your career?
There's one guy, Jimmy Braithwaite, who's had the most impact on my life outside of my family. He's just someone that he sort of means everything to me. Everything that I do, I kind of think, or if I get stuck, I think, what would Jimmy Braithwaite do? He's one man in my life that I've had, that's had the biggest impact on me in terms of wanting to be like him, impress him, and just do well, and kind of make him proud, really. So he's just a local Tolaga Bay guy who I would go down and train kickboxing with in my spare time outside of ROA. He taught me. I would go down there even just for fitness. We'd go on his little farm and run around, and he would just do fitness for 2 hours, 3 hours on a Saturday. So he was amazing, and he wasn't really an actual coach per se, but he certainly was someone who would do things like a coach, but we never had that relationship. We were sort of just kind of like an influential older guy, So him, he'd have the biggest impact outside of my family. But in terms of rugby or anything, like Ngati Simpkins and Ruatapuki, they're probably the best rugby coaches I've ever had. Just the way that their knowledge around the game, and their way that they, like I say before, pulled the correct strings in the East Coast team. They knew how to do it better than anyone. So those people were, probably the biggest coaching influences that I've had.
So with the rugby coaches, is there anything that, apart from obviously bringing it all together, anything that really stood out that you would say this is what a model of good coach would look like?
Ngati Simpkins and Ruatapuki, they were very rough around the edges sort of guys who brought that approach into our team. Like I say, we'd turn up to towns and walk tour with our chests out, and that was the biggest kind of thing that I noticed, was that they brought out the confidence in people. So coaching for me, and it goes back to Tucker as well, he doesn't really hold the pads very much anymore, but he just sort of brings out the confidence in me, and that's what Ngati Simpkins and Ruatapuki did more than anything. So for coaching, it's not about X's and O's and creating game plan, because if you haven't got a good rapport with who you're dealing with, then that message isn't going to get in. And I've said this in some of my captain speeches, if you're a player and you're not really in the leadership group, don't come into the huddle and blurt out the way we're going to fix this game. It could be the way we're going to win it. But if you say it and no one, lack of a better term, respects you, or you don't have that mana in the team, it's not going to hit the mark. In big games, I've sort of always kind of told people, if you've got something, go through the correct avenues, come to me or come to the vice captain or come to someone else that has, a big influence in the team, and then they'll project that to the team, and then we can get on the same page. So you've got to be able to know your players and know how to bring the best out of them. So any team that has been successful that I've been in have done that. So there is a process, and the process 100%.
Helps things moving.
You might know the game better than anyone, but if you haven't got that rapport with the players, then, or if you haven't got rapport with your fighter or your gymnast or your athlete, then you're not really going to have success. That's for me anyway.
And that's cool. That's there'll be coaches and athletes and others listening today, and we talk about that in terms of when we look at coaching as a topic. we do talk a lot about knowing your athlete.
Yeah.
I think it's a big, massive, important thing.
Yeah.
And then obviously the process. Like there'll be coaches that'll go, I've just got to win, I've just got to do everything. But if they miss certain steps along the way, it's yes, winning is part of it, and it is all great. But there's a process of being able to get to. At the end of it, it's an outcome. We want to be able to work on how we get there.
Because we all want to win, you know, but we all want to maybe get there in different ways, you know. So if you run a my way or the highway approach or something, for instance, and then, you know, you end up winning, but next year that guy doesn't turn up again, you know, it's like, did you really win, you know? So you might have won that year, but you've lost someone to the sport, you know, because they couldn't relate to how you're operating or something. So yeah, it's kind of, you know, looking at the bigger picture, or, you know, not looking at the elephant too close. You know, you can look at the elephant too close and get hung up on a deep wrinkle or just the ear, where you got to step back and look at the entire picture of the whole thing and realize, oh, no, there's more to it, you know, for sure. Knowing your people, and in rugby teams you've got different types of people, so you got to be adaptable. And one training you're doing it this way, and then the next training you got to do it the other way, because, you know, you got to try and cater for everyone. So that would be my biggest, you know, thing about coaching that I like, is just that adaptability, or being a bit more open and honest, and not doing it, just that one particular way, eh?
No, for sure. I love the analogy about the elephant. It's great. I remember that one. A couple of questions that I've got to finish off. How has failure or apparent failure set you up for later success?
I mean, failure comes in heaps of different ways, like, and so do losses. Like I say, I never made the first 15 until 7th form, so, you know, those were sort of losses in terms of, they weren't I didn't want to go far in rugby back then, but I still wanted to, you know, play. If that's the best team, you want to be in that best team. So, I only got a couple games in 5th form, and then a couple more games in 6th form, and then you're thinking, oh, you know, if I'm good enough to play a couple games, why aren't I good enough to make the team or whatever? And so you got to sort of deal with that kind of failure.
How do you deal with it?
Oh, probably just bottle it up, to be honest. Probably pretty bad for that, for bottling things up. You know, failures are in all sorts of things outside of sport, you know, failed relationships, or, you know, might get in trouble or something, and, you know, that's a loss, you know. So it's more about the game, you know, you're still only in the 75th minute, you've got time to save it. Like I say, smoking that stupid decision of smoking that weed back at Lindisfarne was probably in the 79th minute, and we're down by 1 now. Like, they scored a try and I'm losing by 1, and then coming back to Gizzy Boys, and my life correcting was, you know, a drop goal to win, you know, to win it. So you might be losing at the time, but it's about, you know, making sure the game's not quite over and you can sort of peg it back.
Never giving up.
Never giving up. Yeah, for sure. Nice. And then obviously you get genuine losses in fighting and that. And before all my King in the Rings, I've lost fights, and you sort of just pick yourself back up, and you're only judged on, you got to keep going until, if you lost and then sort of retired or something, then, you know, you're going to probably be judged on that. So that whole loss and failure thing, it's just perspective, So for me, I lost all those consecutive games with the Coast, and then ended up becoming East Coast captain and winning the Lochore Cup and making a Meads Cup final, and captaining them through that. So Meads Cup semi-final, against South Canterbury, and captaining them through that. So I had all those losses, and then you sort of get those wins. So things come in roundabouts. It's just not about being defined by, you know, a terrible part in your life. You just want to pick yourself back up.
Nice, cool, love it. Good reflection. So what's the plans for the future?
Yeah, well, getting a little bit old now. 30 this year. Body's sort of breaking down. Got knee surgery sometime this year. Had knee surgery, was it last year or year before? Fell off doing a backflip on a wakeboard and blew my knee out. That was 2022. And then surgery. I always kind of thought my body was quite solid, and that all the way through it never really pegged out that much. But now I'm sort of starting to get a few niggles in that. Yeah, but certainly Melissa Mackey's always cooking something in the background with a fight, so she's like my manager in a way, so she always books my fights and I do what I'm told there. In terms of this year, got building a house up in Kirikiri up in Northland, so I've just got to go up and do that, and then until June, and then I'm going over to Croatia to skip a yachts for about 8 weeks, and then be back in time for the East Coast season. Yeah, so that's kind of my rough plan for the year.
Cool.
Yeah, and then throw in a fight here and there. Don't really want to fight too much in New Zealand anymore, unless it's their paid gigs. Like for the last year and a bit, it's all been paid fights, so about 20 grand in the last couple of years from fighting. Yeah, but all that money's sort of running out in New Zealand, so probably like want to head over to Aussie or Asia, somewhere around there. Yeah, that's something that gets me going. Just a normal fight on a fight night in New Zealand sort of doesn't really stimulate me enough, to be honest. Not that I'm trying to be too big or anything, it's just when you kind of have a little bit of a marketable thing, being King in the Ring winner and an exciting fighter, then you don't really want to do it for nothing.
Yeah. Search for that next challenge as
yeah,
well.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Oh, well, good luck on that.
Cheers.
And just to finish it off, we have a question that we sort of ask everyone.
Yeah.
What does the value of sport mean to you?
Yeah, so the value of sport for me has always been for something to do to keep my brain stimulated or keep it occupied. So without sport, I don't know what I would have done. I would have been just drifting around, I'd hate to think what my life would be like without sport. Like, it takes up such a large part of my time, which I enjoy. I wouldn't know what I would fill it in with anything else, and that's when my brain starts to drift off or get bored or start thinking bad things, or start sort of, slipping into, that sort of few demons sort of start coming out, which, we've all got sort of things we battle through, but yeah, my brain certainly has a few demons in there that needs to be sedated with movement, and sport is the outlet that it gives me. Sport was never my meal ticket or going to ever make a living out of it. It's a little bit more than that. It's kept me sane. It's kept my mind busy. Yeah, it gives me that sort of freedom to go do something and keep my body moving. So, yep, it might not have made me a millionaire or anything, but it's kind of done a little bit more. It's kind of saved me in a bigger way than it knows or anyone else knows, to be fair.
Yeah. Awesome. That's amazing. Thank you for that. Like, it takes a lot to, share these sort of stories, but I think it's a cool reflection, and I think it will resonate with probably a lot of people out there as well.
Yeah.
I think that's
good.
Thank you so much for your time, Ngā mihi nui, for coming in and having a chat. DC's going to absolutely love hearing this. Like,
well, I should have actually mentioned him as one of the more influential fellas in my life. He was my school teacher, confidant, that sort of type of guy. He didn't coach Uawa, but he was like our manager. He's someone that has been in my corner from day one, a big supporter. He comes to most of my fights and obviously at all the rugby games, and his son, really kind of looks up to me. So, DC is another one that definitely is always in the background of my life, kind of pulling a few strings, keeping me on track. DC has done more for me than he knows, and he's probably done more for me than I know. So, yeah.
Now, out of the two of you, like, knowing like how Uawa hard he is, it's just definitely, No,
I had to try and hold my tongue from saying all that sort of rhetoric. I was about to say all my blood runs blue and all that kind of thing, but I thought I'd better toe the line here. And otherwise.
No, that's brilliant, mate. Thank you so much, Sam, for coming on. Your story was, absolutely amazing, incredible. It's just awesome to hear that, obviously, the transition from a team sport to an individual sport, just hearing what makes the coast special, like in terms of the rugby, and then just obviously that determination and the challenge that you have around that fighting and stuff. It was awesome to hear. So thank you again so much for your time. Thank you for sharing it with us, and I hope a lot of people listening today or whenever they listen to it get a lot out of it. So appreciate it, and thank you very much.
Sweet. Thank you, Wade.